All right, so let's just go ahead and get started here today. We want to just first start off by just welcoming you. Uh, right now, you are attending the CAIS Parent Education event, and today we have just some fantastic speakers here for today for us. We're going to first start off with a brief word from Dr. Johnson, and then afterwards, following that, we're going to have Ms. Young to talk about how to avoid the summer slump, as well as a brief talk afterwards from Mr. Rohde, who is our school council rep, and he's going to talk about summer fun with other CIS families. So just to do a quick introduction, I want to first start off with Pastor and Dr. Jonathan Johnson. He is from the Hong Kong, and if you look in Hong Kong Island, it's the Island Baptist Church. And so one of the things that's kind of important to understand is that Dr. Johnson has been doing ministry in Hong Kong for over, oh, excuse me. So if you can make sure that you turn off your sound, that'll be delightful. So Dr. Johnson has been doing ministry for Island Baptist Church for over 8 years. He found his calling as a pastor in 2015. And so if you are aware, we also have Catherine Johnson, who is a grade 6 teacher, and she and Dr. Johnson have been doing ministry in Hong Kong for over 10 years, ministering in both New Territories and Tung Chung, as well as the churches that are surrounding the region of Hong Kong Island. And so both Jonathan Johnson as well as Catherine Johnson, they've lived and also have been trained in Christian universities and seminary in the United States. They both have 3 lovely children named Stephen, Lucy, and Nicholas. And they decided to really devote themselves for both the international and local communities that are surrounding both Island Baptist Church. So so they're continuing to just pray that the people can see God's love being reflected in one another through Island Baptist Church. So without further ado, I will have Dr. Jonathan Johnson go ahead and share us a brief word. So, yep.
Thank you, Samuel, and thanks everyone for coming tonight. I hope that you can see me. I can't see myself, so I'm just going to trust that you can see and hear me and hope it works out okay. Just wanted to share a really simple devotional for you tonight as we get started, and it won't take long at all, I promise. As you can see from the slide tonight, just briefly, I want to talk to you about training our children for the future, but doing that today. And so tonight, just real briefly, I'm going to be referring to the Old Testament book of wisdom called the book of Proverbs. And for tonight, I just want to share a real simple thought with you about this idea of training our children for the future, because as a parent, I'm just as interested and concerned about this as many of you are. And I'm so thankful for CAIS, for the teachers, for the administration, and for the great parents who are involved in the community with schools. So if we can go to the next slide, I've just got a simple thought for you from this book of Proverbs. But before I do, I wanted to share real quickly some sad stories. Here in Hong Kong, one of the places I work is in Hong Kong Baptist University and also in Hong Kong University across the harbor. And at Hong Kong University, I get to talk to a lot of the students about their life in a class called Life Worth Living. And the sad thing is, for most of our students, one of the most difficult things they struggle with at Hong Kong University is with their relationships and their family, and especially with their parents. Now, sadly, sometimes that extends to school as well. But when we ask them, what's a challenge in your life? A lot of them have a challenging relationship to their parents. You know, to add on to the sad theme, recently my wife, Catherine, and I watched some videos of children being interviewed and mothers and fathers and helpers being interviewed in Singapore. And there was a test to see who knew the children better, the domestic helper or the parents. And at least in the video they showed us, the parents kept getting the answers wrong. The children were known much better by their domestic helpers. And the last sad story before I promise I'll switch is I remember hearing from a teacher here in Hong Kong when they asked a student, what's the happiest day you ever had in your life? And the student said to the teacher, it was when my parents picked me up from school. So what I want to say real briefly to you and for me is this verse in the book of Proverbs should be an inspiration for you and for me on a good note, because the good news is we now have time to spend with our kids in the summer. The verse I'll read for you from the screen, it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. I'm sorry, the formatting got a little bit messed up in translation here. But in this verse that's very famous for Christians as we train our children, there's something that's easy to miss. In this verse, when it says, train up a child in the way he should go, actually, the way the Hebrew language is speaking to us here is to say that every child, every boy and girl has a way that they should go. Your child has a personality. They have talents. They have interests. They are a unique gift from God, and your child is special. And what the Bible is reminding us here is every child has their own way, their own personality, their own skills. And so the first question I have on the screen here, we'll get back to the first part of the verse, is to ask you as parents, what is your child's way? How would you describe your child's personality, their interest, their style? What is it that your child loves? And the bad news that I shared, I hope will motivate you. Here in Hong Kong and around the world, a lot of children are craving and desiring to have a close relationship with their mother and father, with their parents. And I think your children and my children are no different than that. One time I was sharing with a young girl who had come from overseas, and we were talking to her about love and the love of God. And she said, how can I know about love when I've never had anyone in my life love me? And we even said, not your parents. And they said, no, my parents have never said they love me, and they've never treated me like they love me. So the first question to challenge myself and you is, what's your child's way? Do you know your children well enough? And let's take this summertime to learn more about our children, to spend time with them, so that maybe after the summer of 2021, we've had the coronavirus season, we've been stuck in the house with each other, and we've looked at this as an obstacle and a challenge and a frustration. Maybe you've spent more time with your kids than you wanted to this year. I want you and me to look at it as an opportunity for us to learn what's the way that our child goes in. But the second part of this, and it's a little bit cut off here, is how are we supposed to train up our children? How are we supposed to dedicate them and devote them and train them? Well, for us at CAIS, one of the great joys we have is trying to raise and to train our kids in the way that God desires for them to go, so that when they get older, when they develop and grow, they will be able to live a life that is rewarding and satisfying, but most of all, knowing God. So the challenge I want to give to you is, let's this summer not just learn about our kids as we train them, but let's train them and nurture them. This is the idea of being sensitive to their needs, loving and instructing them, but also guiding them in the ways of God. I didn't put it on the screen here, but there's another verse in Ephesians chapter 6 that says for parents, and it even says especially fathers, we're supposed to raise our kids in the nurture and the admonition or the instruction of the Lord. So I wanted to begin on this challenging note to say, there's a lot of children who desperately want to be with their parents more. We have a desperate need as parents to know our children, to know who they are and what they're like. And what a great opportunity in summer, now that school is ending and now the teachers are handing off the students to you, as it were, you've got a chance to know your child and to train them, and hopefully to train them in the Lord. And I'm looking forward for you to hear from Prudence and from Rhodey and from Sam as well, because you've got great resources in CAIS. Your teachers of your students, they love them, and they want to help you train your students for the future. And also in Hong Kong, there are plenty of churches and believers in Jesus Christ who would like to join up with you and help you on this great journey as we try to train our children for the future. So just a very short word of encouragement for you. And let me just say a quick word of prayer before I hand it back off to Samuel. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the teachers and for the students and the parents at CAIS. I thank you for Samuel, for Prudence, for Rhodey, for them taking their time, and for the parents who have come to attend, and maybe those who will watch this video later. Lord, I ask that you would help us to know our children, to learn what way they go in, what their style is, their personalities, their behavior. Help us to pay attention to our kids, Lord, and to use this summertime as a chance to get to know them better. And then, Father, help us to train them in the way they should go, not just to be successful, not just to make a lot of money and to make us be proud of them, but really in the way that would be pleasing to you and a way that they would be satisfied in and blessed in, even when they come to an old age. So help us to join together at CAIS to train up these children in the way that they should go. We pray and ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you, Dr. Johnson. Absolutely. So we're just so thankful that to be able to share that word with us and talk about training up the child. And we're just going to continue on. Our next speaker for today will be Prudence Young. So she is the math department team lead. She has a Master's of Arts in Counseling and Psychology. She will be our main speaker for tonight to talk in regards to specifically about how to avoid the summer slump. And one thing, just a quick introduction for Prudence, is that she is an alumni at CAIS. So she has been working at CAIS for many years, and she served also as our school's guidance counselor for 2 years. And so at the moment, she's working as the department head. And before we dive into this topic in regards to the summer slump, I think it's important that as parents, the summer, it's a very different type of summer. And I think it's something that we are very well aware of what's going on in times of just COVID. And I remember just last week, I had a phone call with a parent, and it was the same. The conversation, it seems like it's really the same. What classes should I sign up for my child? Or there would be even discussion among other parents as well that would discuss about in regards to, have you signed up for that? No, the program's full now. So there's a lot of these conversations, and one of the things that we've come to understand is that because it is the summer, it seems like as most parents, and I'm sure even within this room, the concern is questions such as, my concern of screen time. The reality is that kids are more prone to being on their screens. And so many times we may think, I need to make sure that the schedule is full so that I can have my child less on the screens and for them to really have their time to do things that are more productive. And there's a lot of these different questions, and it's within that we are aware that through this talk, it's not a conversation of we want you to take these courses and you should do this. We are aware that by now, since April, I know that many of you parents have already signed up for a lot of these different courses for your child. But rather, we want to discuss about how we can really prepare ourselves for this particular summer. And I just like how Pastor Johnson had mentioned that, it's about not just, in a way, this is a good opportunity in some way to really have certain conversations with our children. And not only just that, but we hope that we can foster a mindset that you can really build as a family. So with that said, I'm going to pass the baton to Prudence.
So good evening, everyone. Yeah, so I really resonate with what Pastor Johnson said, because that's basically the focus of tonight's sharing for me about avoiding the summer slump. And so as the name suggests, what can we do what can you do for your child this coming summer? And like what Sam said, a lot of times is really filling up with activities. So not to scrap that, because that's an important part. We want structure, we want predictability for the children. But with that, instead of just feeling it as a task, but have that, my goal for today is to give you a different perspective of what else you can enhance this summer. So the focus of this talk is to encourage your child's summer activities and not manage them. So there's a slight difference in terms of perspectives, and we know that although things are done the same, perspectives really help us change from the inside out. So when we look at this summer, hopefully when you look at this summer after this talk, that you are able to connect with the things that you have signed up your child for, and also how you can also be part of it as well, make it meaningful. So before we go more into that, let's talk about the summers, what it used to be like and what it is now. So the then and now. So back then, when I say then, means just a few summers ago, Summer for your child, it's about time off from studying. If they're high schools, they've finished up exams and they are ready to just sleep and flip their schedules around. They don't have to finish their no more homeworks for them to do, studying for tests as regular as it would be a normal regular school year. It could be a time for remedial classes. Obviously, if it's for numeracy and literacy, they are weak at certain areas, then you as parent will want to sign up for a specific thing to help them catch up during this time. Interest classes, it could be pottery, it could be painting, it could be swimming, arts, drama, musical theater, choir, you name it. Anything that you can think that sparks your child's interest, you would want to sign that up as well. Summer camps, obviously, if a time allows back then, there could be overnight summer camps or full day camps for sports, for different things as well. And then for, going back to the previous slide, please. And then for family travel, that's a huge thing. For family travel, you also get to visit, whether it's a short haul somewhere close by or long haul to visit distant family. Not only for your child, but you too as parent are able to really experience new things. Kind of like a change of environment really allows the family to bond that way. And for now, with Zoom classes happening for big chunk of the year, and we just finished having full day resumptions, but we know that summer is going to be a catch-up sessions for academics especially. We know that for Zoom classes, it is just not the same time span wise for our children. We don't want them to have all that screen time. If it's a 50-minute class, it's so hard to just have a full 50-minute screen time class. So things has to be more chopped up in chunks to be taught, to be learned. And so we know that it is not going to be the same of the materials that you now have learned. For social and physical development, that's a huge one, because we know that during the school year with Zoom, once they turn off that screen, there are not a lot of social interactions. Even in class, teachers want to have absolute silence in order for the lessons to be taught. You can't ask your classmate beside you for, for a recall for what the teacher said, a while ago, borrow a pencil or paper. Those interactions that we take in for granted are actually gone this past year. And so, social development has been missing for a lot of our children. And obviously physical development, because they can't move. Even though they had PE classes, we just know that the daily physical activity is nowhere near what they used to, even from going to school and back, walking around, having lunchtime, recess, after recess. All these things are very different when they go to school for half days. All of those are proportionally shrunk and diminished. So the time for physical development, a lot of them didn't have that sufficient exercise to have that physical development. And summer, it's also, for us to focus on the family dynamics and relationship, because just what Pastor Johnson said, a lot of times we just didn't really know what to do while everybody's under the same roof. There's more tension potentially. There's a lot more reminders for your child to clean up after themselves, to listen to you when you tell them, what to do, instructions to follow. All of these things, because we're seeing each other, you guys are seeing each other all the time, tensions built up. Miscommunications happen more often. And so it does affect family dynamics and relationships. And so physical health, obviously, with COVID, everybody's at a heightened sense of protecting physical health. So a normal cough, cold, fever, upper respiratory tract infections, all of that, what it used to be then, just rest a few days, everything will be okay. Now it's like, do I need to take a COVID test? Do I need to now self-quarantine? All of these things actually is something that kind of takes up our summer that we need to be more mindful of as well. And finally, mental health. And as a guidance counselor myself, with my background in counseling, mental health is often, a lot of times, very neglected. And when we say mental health, everybody has mental health, just like physical health. But in Hong Kong, a lot of times people associate mental health with chronic illness. But we're not talking about that, where mental health is something that everyone has, and it could be, whether the child is closing off, not talking, or doesn't, or very angry all the time, very sad all the time. All of these things are actually part of the manifestations of their mental health. And so the summers right now, it's actually very important for families to focus on mental health for our children, because we know that health is all connected. We know the importance of physical health. We can give them medicine, take rest, or go see a doctor. But mental health, a lot of times, is kind of go under the rug. It's under the radar to be caught by parents. And when it manifested into a more like a higher level, sometimes it's a little bit too late. So by being proactive about it, focusing on how do I make sure that my child has good mental health so that they can, withstand all the changes that are happening to them. And also for you too, as parents, to be more mindful of your mental health, because you affect your child. So therefore, going into our next topic, how to encourage and not manage your child's summer, is to have a family focus. Is exactly what Pastor Johnson said. And actually use exactly same verse too, from Proverbs 22:6. I would like to take a spin on the, in addition to what Pastor Johnson said from a biblical perspective, that every child has a way, even from just a secular perspective, and just even looking at your children, everyone knows that, we teach and students, or your child learns. And so how can you as a parent able to guide from a biblical sense, as well as just, what a parent should do? And that comes from being, having a summer that has a family focus. Now, I didn't say it to be family focused, because that means it flipped the whole entire summer upside down. Everything you do has to be family oriented. I don't personally think it's possible. I mean, those who can, great, but we know that a lot of you guys are working parents. And so, while most of your days are actually have to go work, it's just hard to have a summer that is just family focused. It's just not possible to spend all this time with your child and neglect your work, for example. But to have a family focus, it means that when you design and have activities, remember that you influence your child biblically, as well as from not a biblical perspective as well. For example, something called the Bowen family system. So in this case, Bowen family system, I just want to give you an idea, is that this type of family systems, from the counseling perspective, says that family members influence each other because they are a unit. Their family members are individual. They have individual thoughts and actions. Your child could be similar to you in some ways, but could be completely different and unique from you than others. Sometimes you might scratch your head, how did this come from? There's nothing like me or my wife or my husband. But because God, created us in very unique ways, every person is unique and made in God's image. But yet in a family system, according to Bowen, everyone influences each other. And even though if your child is in secondary school, for example, you might often feel that as they get older, they might not talk to you as much. They might feel more distant from one another. But these are actually feelings more than fact. I can attest to myself where, growing up, I might be not talking to my parents as much, but as a teacher, and my mom was a teacher, sometimes I talk to a student exactly the way my mom said. There's a lot of things that hidden deep down we didn't really know until we get older. Wow, a lot of things that I do actually resembles the way that my parents do. That's because our parents are the ones that we mimic off from and we learn from the most, whether parents like to acknowledge that or not. And so with that, it's really important that to have a family focus is that when you are creating activities for your child, reserve a space that allows you to be part of it. Because not only one, it gives stability for your child, that your child receiving the message that they are just as important as your work. but more importantly, that you too also able to be aware that as you are interacting with them in a very specific way, not just at the dinner table, not just like, sitting around the in the living room, when you guys come together every single night or from time to time, not those just happens to be together, but intentional gatherings really set the tone for both your child and yourself so that you want to have these quality times to work. And then the second part that I want you like to kind of think more of for this summer is to help your child build support network. As the Bible says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. A threefold cord is not quickly broken, from Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. And why is it's so important, whether it's this summer or throughout the year, but specifically this summer as well, is because forming support network, helping your child forming support network is so crucial in life. And forming proper and positive social groups, it helps your child build resilience. I don't know if you noticed, but your child may be extremely happy when the school resumed. The fact is that even as simple as, walking to school, going from class to class if they're high school students, or even for primary students, they go to specialty classes, having recess, just the time to able to bond with their friends and classmates, it's a huge deal for them. And a lot of times, I must say from a high school teacher, I might think a lot of times when I ask a student, it's very unlikely they will say, wow, I love going to school. Not a lot will say that. There's some will, but for a lot of them, they will say, oh, I wish I can play video games. I would go out with friends. But as they resumed classes face-to-face, I can say across the grades that I teach from grade 7 to 12, they would say, wow, I cannot believe I said it. I actually enjoy coming to school. And that also helps them to really able to have social groups because they longed for it. And very important as they get older, as they enter adolescence, it is a crucial stage of building personal identity. So one of the things that I want you to remember as parents is that their friendship group is not limited to their school friends that they happen to make in class. Because if it's only restricted to that, sometimes it's very difficult for your child if their classmates, move away from the school, like move to a different country for immigration, move to a different school for a different purpose, move to a different class because there are multiple classes in each grade. The next year, their friends or besties, they ended up separated into different classes. So all of those things changes, it sometimes is beyond our control. And so from a high school counselor perspective, a lot of the parents would say to me, concern is, I don't know, they have a lot of friends, or I don't know if that friend is good for my child. There's so many things that seems like it's helpless from the parent perspective because all these friendship group support network that your child is fighting for on their own just happens to be at school. But what I'm asking you to do is think differently, is that you can also be part of the process in helping your child build support network. Something like encouraging meetups outside of school, whether it's CAIS classmates that your child has, even outside of school, which is church friends, church families, family friends. All of those things actually allow you to help your child build specific positive social groups that you have control of, versus just your child making their friends on their own. And sometimes parents worry, is that what if I want able to have a little bit more involvement? That's where you can do it. And really that really helps, because by having different support network, when one falters, let's say school friends happens to move away, from our perspective as adults, it means like, okay, they'll get over it. Maybe they'll meet new friends in class. But sometimes for your child, depending on how open they are, how connected with their friends, that those who leave, it might be very detrimental. It might feel like their world is ending. Somehow everything changed, like students, or your child, I should say, really loves to use superlatives. I have no friends. I have none, all friends left. So we really need to recognize these feelings, even though it might not be true. But for them, it feels like they have no friends anymore. So when that happens, it is very important that you guys as parents, be proactive by having other friendship groups, play dates, and so on and so forth, that either one, well, for one, you are able to help establish that, and two, you can also interact with the families as well and build that relationship together. And so how does that look like? So I just give a very brief, I know this time is running a little bit tight. Let me just go over that. What does that look like? I want to emphasize family outings. Family outings for school-age children is perfect because that allows my mom and my dad really cares for me. Activities due as a family, as a unit, from the Bowen's family system. Going to church together, going hiking together, attending classes together. All of these things really allows the child to feel secured. When things change, there's something that's constant, and that is huge. Predictability and structure helps a child grow. No child should feel insecure, afraid of not knowing what's next. So family outings, it doesn't have to be every day. I don't think it's possible, but every week, every other day, whatever it's manageable, it's whatever you think it's manageable to, not to stress you out too much. Whatever it is, that's what they're going to receive, and that's at least better than nothing. And it doesn't have to be outings as well. It could be indoor, it could be, board game nights at home, it could be chat at home, movie night at home. All of these things really does help. It gives you downtime as well if it's movie, just to sit down and watch together. But also your interest, whatever you like, also influence your child. And it's through these nonverbal communication that childs grow to bond with you. And also in times of moment, they know that you are there to listen, and they're more likely to open up as well. Obviously, any camps, STEM activities, classes, remedial classes, I'm sure a lot of parents are like, you guys already signed up. But lastly, I want to also emphasize play dates. And so play dates, it's like it has multiple benefits to it. One is when you have more families, more parents watching over a group of children, it's a lot easier to manage, I think, from what I hear from other parents. Even though they might be running around wild, they might be, the noise level might be a lot higher. But the thing is that when you as an adult able to have another parent with you to share that load with you, you also feel more supported. And so it's all these interconnected relationships that really helps your child, you grow as well. So play dates, a lot of times as people get older, your child gets older, more and more will be unlikely to happen. But I would strongly say that based on my personal experience, I have play dates since I was grade 1. And my friend and our family still meet up in high school, in universities, and even now, whenever we could, because these relationships really helps us over these years. And so play dates is not just for little ones, it's definitely for all ages. And lastly, for school age, secondary school age children, now this is more of my expertise, and so I often tell a lot of parents these. For grade 7 to 9, a lot of them actually just fresh out of primary school, and we automatically put them into, oh, you are a secondary school student now, you should know how to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These things need to be learned. And actually our grade 7, 8 students, a lot of times they really perform and think like a primary student because their developmental stage is not fully there yet, their brain development. And so but a lot of times we as parents, we think that they are already old enough. And so expectations change drastically. But I want you to know that at school, it's already a training ground for them. From one homeroom teacher up to grade 6 to now there are 7 or 8 teachers where students have to move around from class to class. even as simple as keeping a clean locker, it's very impossible for some students. It's like a black hole the moment you open, either their school bag or a locker. It's such a foreign thing for them. And so it's important that as children go into middle years, grade 7 to 9, that we still remember that there is that element that they're still learning very much like primary schools. And so that's why the activities are similar, I would say, for focus. For university age children, like prepping for university, there's that university preparation for TESOL, TOEFL, and any online courses to help them with their transcript. ECA is super important for a student moving up towards graduation, because parents always say marks come first. And sooner or later, a lot of the students actually stop doing sports at school and outside of school. And with our trend going these days, universities really look for well-rounded students. And if they're applying for UK or US, a lot of times and in Hong Kong, they will definitely need something called personal statement. What defines them? And if they don't have exposures and experiences outside of classrooms, they cannot write about themselves. And it's a very flat, and they get stuck. And so that's why it's important that despite marks being important, a very crucial element for university entry, extracurricular activities is extremely important that often parents miss. Summer Institute, something I want to focus on is that it's usually for grade 11 and 12, if there are any parents here, because Hong Kong, it's a place where there's not a lot of job volunteer opportunities compared to overseas, North America, because of liability issues. A lot of the times, if any company allows or accepts any type of volunteer work, even SPCA helping out with SPCA, you need to be 16 years old and up. And so what happens to all these years beforehand? And so for Summer Institute, it's actually designed by universities, knowing that students don't have a lot of exposure. They actually create Summer Institute's programs to make law, doctor, accountant, all the engineering, all the different types of potential professions for students to experience, to see whether or not they actually like it, rather than, I'm going to apply to this program because I think my marks are good enough for that. So it's a very different mentality, but it's actually really good. And again, some family outings and gatherings, especially during the pandemic, not just our school, but schools worldwide. If you just search online, mental health has been very damaging, especially for older children, because they are already, not very fond of opening up to parents for most part. There might be definitely exceptions. And when they don't open up to parents, they open up to social media. And that's where we know that without proper family filtering in the social media and online route, there are a lot of dark information that just your child might potentially receive, because there's a lot of views from this video clip. It must be good. I need to watch it. Hence the word viral videos. But not all those viral videos are beneficial for your child to see. And so and parents often feels that they have less and less and less control of their child's well-being, and control translates to frustration. And frustration turns out, and emphasize a lot of family arguments, which encourages and enforces the child even not sharing at home. So it's a very vicious cycle. And by breaking that and have more family outings and gatherings, it's very important that way, that your child knows that you care, and therefore they will be more likely to open up before something really bad happens. And so I think the focus is, just like what Pastor Johnson said, summer have an element of thinking about what really able to bring forth from a parent perspective, by instilling something, even though they start up be like, oh, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to go out? I hear all the time with students. But I can tell for a fact, as a counselor myself, they say it, but deep down they long for it. And after consistency from the parents, just pushing forth with something that, activities and outings that everybody enjoys, and I can guarantee you I will see a difference. You will see a difference in your child's life. may not be academically suddenly, you know, full throttle from a B to an A student, C to an A student, but just their demeanor. And by you knowing more about them and more of them through the interactions, it also helps you too. And when you feel that you're supported, you are more likely to actually transfer that behavior and that interaction communication with your child as well. So hopefully it gives you a little bit more understanding. And if you have any more questions, feel free to email me if you have any questions about summer.
All right, so yeah, this is just a summary page of just for what was just shared. And now we're just going to continue on with Mr. Rohde. Mr. Rohde is a school council parent representative. So it's really, for our next speaker, it's great because we can really transition from talking about having this sort of family focus and really building this sort of network. And so I think it's really timely because Mr. Rohde is going to go ahead and actually talk about what CAIS is doing this summer. And because we are more than aware of what the summer will probably look like, we'd like to assist you in that way to see what are some things that are happening in CAIS that may help you to support just our own community inside, especially during the summer. So Rohde, yeah, please feel free to go ahead and just introduce yourself as well as just talk about what's in store for this summer.
Very good. Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Rohde. Can you guys hear me? Is it? Yeah, very good, very good. Sam, do you have my slides? Otherwise, I'll. Oh, you do have them here. Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, my name is Rohde. As Sam already mentioned, yes, I am on the school council. But above all, I'm a parent. And same like all of you. I have two boys within CAIS, grade 1 and grade 4. So of course, like my focus is primarily on the primary school. It's in terms of my own experiences. But nevertheless, what I'll be talking about today is effectively a key question that I had and still have. When thinking about the summer break. And the summer break is around the corner, it's right in front of us. Next week will be the final school day. And then the key question that I as a parent had in my mind is, so what to do with my kids during summer, given the limited travel opportunities? Because normally, like in a non-pandemic type of world, in the pre-COVID situation, I mean, I originally am from the Netherlands. A big chunk of my summer break would be, traveling back to the Netherlands and having the kids going with me back to Amsterdam, and doing a lot of fun stuff, doing a lot of outings and family outing, and a lot of these type of things that Prudence was just all talking about. And again, if I think about school holidays. There are just a couple of words that pop up in my head when I think about it, and I did put in animations in, Sam, so maybe you just press space or click a couple of times, yeah, just click it all through. But these are the words that kind of come up in my head, right? It's all about, it's fun. It's the kids will have free time. They will be able to play around. Vacation. What I mean with vacation is primarily all about traveling, traveling either back to the Netherlands or traveling to Thailand or Japan, or just like these kind of things. And I kind of tried to summarize it here in the bottom, effectively it's enjoying the good life for 6 to 8 weeks. And of course, that is, I mean, of course I have to work and these kind of things, but in general, if I think about school holidays, I mean, that's the kind of thing that kind of pops up in my head. And I think, therefore, it's quite. I mean, that's in my head what summer holiday is supposed to look like. But again, COVID, as I mentioned, COVID is a bit of a kind of like it is making things a little bit more difficult. And we cannot travel, so we have to now be a little bit more creative. If we cannot travel, what are we going to do then? And if we're not being creative, we may end up in, and maybe you can click, Sam, you know, something like this, which will, you know, like if we're not, or, you know, like I can definitely see my house turning into something like the picture on the right-hand side. And I mean, in a way, that is not necessarily bad if that happens, right? I mean, but we have to just make sure, we have to be a little bit more planned about it. We have to plan things a little bit more. You know, like we just have to think about what is it that we can do and how can we create it creatively, you know, like making sure, you know, like that our kids are being fully entertained. And to help parents, and this is sort of like, and I won't make this too long, guys, but to help parents, what we did is we basically threw out a survey, and you know, like through all the WhatsApp groups, you know, like we also asked the question and kind of like, well, what are possible things that we can do, right? And I really want to thank everyone, because we got a massive amount of ideas of things that we can do with our kids here in Hong Kong over the summer. We actually received more than 100 ideas, 102, right? So it's still more than 100, but you know, like it's still more than 100 ideas, which is fantastic, and that is supposed to help. And this is what you see here on the slide. This is just kind of like a quick snapshot. I will go into some of the actual inputs that was given. I've categorized them and kind of like we can just quickly run through some of the things, and we will share that list with all of you so that it will help you to kind of like also be inspired in terms of things what you can do. So, but what we effectively want to do with this list, and you can click through to the next slide, Sam, is yeah, just click through. I shouldn't have put all these animations in. Is, well, first of all, how to use this list, right? And we'll go through a couple of examples later on. Well, first of all, I just want to highlight all the suggestions that have been given. They're fantastic. It's absolutely is great. 100 ideas, and it kind of like reminds me of, because I mean, just as an example, I'm always being asked, okay, what would you like to have for dinner? And if I don't have a list or kind of like ideas or inspiration, I tend to basically say the same thing over and over again. If I'm not creative, I will eat the same thing over and over again, which is probably not, you know, like the thing that I want. So this list, therefore, and this is the first bullet, although it's not exhaustive, it doesn't give a full exhaustive list of things you can do in Hong Kong, but it will be a very good, you know, like starting point in terms of like use that as inspiration, you know, like in terms of like it will help you kind of like think of things that you can do. In addition, this was actually some of the parents that gave that idea, is that the list that we go through, the 100 items, is like we can use them as sort of like flashcards, you know, like to kind of like help your kid, you know, like to choose an activity, or you can use it something like a lucky draw type of thing, you know, you create, you know, like 100. Well, it's a bit of work, you know, but maybe your kid can make these 100 things, you know, like cut them out. You pick them one, right? Yeah, like and just you basically do that activity on that particular day, and perhaps as well, you know, like we kind of like think about this is a good starting point, and you can then start sharing some of the experiences through the various WhatsApp groups that we have, right? Like if there's a good idea, it is just, again, this is a good starting point to make sure, you know, that we have that community as CAIS, you know, like we share these ideas. If we see something and that is not on the, or we do something that is not on this particular list, share it with others, right? So that they can also do this. The bottom disclaimer, I did have to highlight that one specifically. These are, whatever these suggestions, these are suggestions by parents for parents. These are not official CAIS events, but again, they are by parents for parents, and making sure, you know, like that they can be used as an inspiration. So I won't go through a whole lot of detail, but again, it's just to give you a bit of a sense of the categories. The parents, they had fantastic ideas. They gave volunteering ideas, such as you know, like support refugee groups, community service, beach cleanups, summer camps, day camps, although some of them might already be full at this particular point in time, but like keep trying and see if there is something possible, like science camps, summer camps, Christian camps, these kind of things. Certain schools will organize certain camps as well. I mean, I haven't checked whether like these are all kind of like fully booked or not, but again, like try it and explore and see if there's something that might be fit for purpose for your child. Next one. Overnight trips. I mean, this is something that staycations, of course, like is something that a lot of parents called out. Staycations and a lot of these hotels, they actually provide a lot of events and organize a lot of events. Like that is something that's quite nice to do. Camping, beach camping, glamping, if you're not that much of a wild camping person and you do like your air conditioning during this hot summer. I'm going glamping myself actually in a few weeks' time. So it's definitely something that can be enjoyable to do with the kids. But as well as in sports, again, I won't go through each one, but rock climbing, bowling, swimming, these kind of things are all kind of like ideas. Cycling. Next one, Sam. So in the nature category, hiking, of course, became something that a lot of people have highlighted. But there are a couple of other things that can be done. I put two smileys because I just wanted, these were kind of like personal highlights for myself. I wanted to kind of like share that with you guys. So the second bullet on the nature, it's find scorpions and fireflies. And the word scorpions was a little bit like, okay, maybe it's interesting, maybe something to pursue, but that was kind of like a bit of a highlight. Also, the bottom one, I'm not sure if it is a spelling mistake or literally it's biking at night. Maybe it's hiking at night, but I thought that was pretty funny. But certain classes, like we can do. I mean, there are loads and loads of classes that are being organized. Next one, Sam. In terms of theme parks, there are a couple of there are a lot of things that I didn't know about. But there's a lot you can do. Of course, the ocean parks and Disneylands, like are on the list. But like there are quite a couple of other things that I wasn't aware of. That can be done as well. I think a couple of parents, I'll try it with my kids on the be helpful at home category. The top bullet is like help with household chores. It is something that can be done. I'm not sure how I can like make my kids enthusiastic about it. But it's something that we can try. I did like the bottom one. It's definitely something that I will do. It's basically kids to serve their parents as a chef, from shopping ingredients to cooking and finally serving on the table. I think that is something that I will definitely do. I mean, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Next one, Sam. So again, so explore day trips. Again, like loads of options here. Next one, Sam. Again, being on the water and indoor things to do at home. So being on the water, which is snorkeling, squid fishing, pink dolphins watching, fishing ponds, indoor if there's a rainy day, like of course it's movie days, online Scrabble matches and music play dates. These are all fantastic ideas, and I couldn't come up with these ideas just on my own. Next one, Sam. And then there's a couple of others. I put another smiley on the second bullet under other. It was an interesting one as well. Car racing. I'm not sure where we can do that in Hong Kong, but it was highlighted by one of the parents. But it's outdoor barbecue type of things. Go to the cinema, and the most right-hand side category. These were ideas that were shared by parents And I think they will require a bit more conversation with CAIS. Something they were talking about, phase 2 school tour, hide and seek in the CAIS building, or a CAIS treasure hunt. What else did they have? So like a CAIS bazaar. I mean, these are fantastic ideas, and they will require a little bit more kind of, let's say, organization on the CAIS side. And I think, Sam, you know, like we can bring this back to Richard and kind of like see if we can have a conversation about this. It will probably take a little bit more time, but you know, like I do. This was the last category. As you can see, there are heaps and heaps and heaps of ideas that you know, like you can take. And again, maybe there are things that you would like to do that are not in this list. Please, this is the idea of this list. Take this as inspiration. Look at it, see what you can do, plan for something so that you don't end up with, you know, like a home like on the 2 pictures of a child that is just bored lying on the couch. Make sure you do things, and as Prudence said, you know, like the more you do together with your family, you know, like the better the relationships are, and how that actually is beneficial to your child as well as your entire family as a whole. That was pretty much it that I wanted to share. I mean, I put a Q&A there. I know it's 8 o'clock. It's Friday evening. I'm not sure if there's a whole lot of questions. But then I really want to wish everyone a fantastic summer break. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Sam, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you for joining us for this is the 1-hour session on just the parent education event. So we plan to do more of these events as well, but hopefully this could be very informative. That could be a blessing to you, and this will be our official last for parent education event for this academic year. But as we start the new year, we plan to continue to have more parent education events that really can be a way to get us connected, have parents, staff members, and the school to get connected. So once again, thank you for joining us. I want to thank you, Pastor Johnson. Thank you, Rhodey, as well as Ms. Young, for joining us today. And thank you, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.